Welcome back everyone to Kerbal Space Program Better Than Ever. Now in this episode we are going to put together everything we have learnt so far of remote tech and KOS and see if we can complete some missions using just those tools. So let's pop over to see Gene in Mission Control and see if he has anything for us. Now of course, as luck would have it, because I've checked already, we have 3 missions, 3 contracts that will take us to the Mun that we can complete together. So I think this would be a very good test of our KOS and remote tech skills. So we have test a TR2V stack decoupler whilst orbiting the Mun. We can test a Rockomax 2477 while orbiting the Mun. And we can test an LV-1 liquid fuel engine whilst on an escape trajectory out of the Mun. Now the advances are pretty small, but the rewards are pretty large. We get 30,000 funds and 193 reputation, 32,000 funds, 251 reputation, and even here we have 52 science, 93 reputations, even if the completion funds are relatively small. So this little batch of contracts will certainly do us very well in the funds, science and reputation category. So let's accept these contracts and build ourselves a vehicle. Now as far as the vehicle's concerned, we don't need anything particularly sophisticated. We certainly don't need it to be Kerbaled, that's why we're using remote tech. So let's start off with a basic pod and let's have a look at some of the parts that we need to use. They're highlighted in blue so we know which ones they are. Now one of the things I like to do with some of these engine test contracts, especially where they are combined with decoupler tests, is basically to eject the engine as part of the test. It will leave us with a bit of debris, but good old self-destruct mechanism will soon sort that out. Right, what else do we need? Well, let's plonk on our Kerbal engineering system. We'll squeeze that on here. We obviously need our aerials, so let's plug one on here and the Communitron on here. So this is the basics of our command center. That'll do us for command. Now from the control section we'll get our KOS scriptable control system. That's where we're going to run all of our KOS commands, and then I think we just need a fairly basic where are we? There we go, LV909. So this is going to be our basic arrival and Mun orbiting craft. Now we do need a few additional bits and pieces, so let's get from the utility category, let us get some batteries. We'll need some batteries on here. Let's have 4 of those. We'll have them spread to one side because I also want to have some photovoltaic cells. We'll have 4 of those, and some of our can't do without panels as well, so that'll do us well for charge. Now strictly speaking that's all we need for this part. However, in order to get remote tech working we do need some of these medium range antenna. Now we only need 2, and the reason we only need 2 is one's going to be pointing at Kerbin, so that'll keep this vehicle working, and the other one will be pointing at active vessel. Now to start with that won't be much of a problem because this will be the active vessel, but in future it won't be. In future it will be relaying signals to other active vessels, so that's why we need the second dish. Now those active vessels may be in transit, they may be on escape directories that are out of range of our Communitron, and the Communitron will therefore do all the short range stuff, and the comms DTS M1 we'll do all the medium range stuff. So I think that will do us just fine. Now before we forget, let's make sure we have our other experimental device. We'll have 2 of those. And those will be what we will test as part of our other contracts. So we have 1, 2 and 3 parts for our contracts. We'll sort out the staging a little bit later. So let's now get our vehicle to the Mun. Doesn't take much to get to the Mun. So let's put on a stack decoupler, a couple of these tanks. Oh, I missed. There we go. We will put an LVT-45 engine on here, and as I've done before, and I'll probably do it again for cheapness sake, because we are cheap in this game, we certainly need to save cash. We will use solid rocket boosters. There we go, solid rocket boosters. Now they're quite powerful, and they will therefore tend to pull away from the body of the craft. So mandatory struts, and finally let's get on our stabilizers. So that's the basics of the craft. So let's just name this and save it. The Mun Mark 1. Let's save that. So that's the basics we have in place. Let's just get the staging sorted out. So let's pull that down to the bottom. I assume these are the boosters, yeah. And there's the LVT-45. Then we have these will separate, and then we have this separating, and oh no, we've got the wrong engine in there. That's that one. So this must be the LVT-909. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some stages, just some dummy stages, for the rest of these parts. Now we're not going to use these as part of the launch or rendezvous, but we use them as part of the testing for the contracts. So let's just step back a little and just bring ourselves down a little bit closer to the launch pad. So we have plenty of Delta V. We need 6,200 and something for a perfect arrival and orbit on the Mun. So we got plenty of Delta V. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reduce the thrust on these boosters, because there's way too much thrust on the boosters. This thing will be going way too fast, and so that'll be very inefficient. So let's bring this down to say about half. There we go, 51. Just make sure they're both 51. Yep, there we go. So we've got plenty of Delta V, plenty of total Delta V. We've got this is the boosters, launch, and LVT. That's the first stage. Then boosters separate, and we carry on the LVT-45 until that runs out, and then we do the rest here on the LV-909. So that's all looking good. So the last thing I think we'll do is we'll set up an action group. Now we don't have numbered action groups at the moment, but what we can do is we can use this action group, which is normally for lights, and what we'll do is we'll put all the activatable things onto the lights action group. So let's just pop everything that can be action grouped onto the lights action group. So when I tap the lights on, the antenna will come out, the panels will come out, and the Communitron will come out, and that'll save me fiddling around clicking on stuff. So let's just save that again, and I think we can now head on out to the launch pad and use KOS and the things we've learned about KOS to get this thing up into orbit. See you in a moment. Lovely clear sky on the launch pad as per usual. So let's get our KOS out and ready. This is our KOS terminal. We've seen it before. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use KOS to control trajectory. So to begin with, let's lock steering to up, and then add our rotation. which we saw helps the vehicle stay on the straight and narrow whilst we are doing the initial part of the ascent. Let's get throttle to maximum and let's stage and launch our MUN 3 contract launcher. So first thing we need to do, have a look at our contracts there. All easy to do, and we're going to crack them all in one mission. Next thing to keep an eye on is our vertical speed, which is just below terminal velocity, which is perfect. It's just about catching up, so let's just reduce the throttle of the LVT 45. There we go. Now the next thing we're going to do is lock our steering to our heading, which we know to be 90 degrees east, 45 pitch above the horizon, and an additional rotation of minus 90 degrees just to stop the craft rotating and putting one of these large boosters above the other. Now this is a pretty hefty craft, so I'm going to begin, just check my spelling, I'm sure you were all screaming at me to check that. Let's get ourselves turning over, because this is a bit of a lump to turn, so it's going to be a while whilst it turns over, so we're going to be a little bit late on the turn, but no big deal. Now the next thing we're going to need to do is to stage as soon as those boosters run dry, so just keeping an eye down there on the bottom left. Nice steady turn. Here go the boosters. There they are, and off they go. Hopefully not landing on anything important. So, nice and steady launch. KOS keeping us on track. Now, as soon as we pass out of the middle of the atmosphere, we can put lights on, which, as we know, will extend all our extendable parts. So let's do that. There they go. Excellent. And we are just about, there we go, got a decent apoapsis. So let's go up to about 100 and then just kill our velocity. 90. There we go. Now, from now on, I think we'll use remote tech to do everything. So let's just unlock the steering. Oops. Unlock steering to allow remote tech to take over. Now before I forget, let's set our antenna to a target. So let's give one a target of look back at Kerbin, and we'll give the other one look at the active vessel, which will be any active vessel other than this one, obviously, that happens to be in range. So let's just switch over to map mode and get our maneuver node in place. There we go. Pull on the prograde handle. 30. 91. A little bit lopsided. 95 and 100. There we go. That'll be just fine. So let's get our flight computer ready. And hopefully we should be slowly maneuvering towards our node. Like I said, it's a bit of a lump. We've only got the reaction wheels in this tiny little control pod there. I did try putting an additional reaction wheel unit on this while I was testing, and it just caused massive vibrations. So I thought patience is a virtue. So let's execute the maneuver, which is due in 20 seconds. We should be lined up by then. And we have a 40-second burn to burn off 1214 meters per second. Now we don't have that much, so LV909 is going to have to finish it off, so we will have to manually stage halfway through this burn. So let's get ready. There we go. So let's just get ready to trigger the stage. We'll do it manually. Now this will mean, because the LV909 is not as powerful, we'll have a bit of a lopsided orbit, but not to worry, we're not staying here very long. There we go. So that will fall back down to Kerbin, save ourselves one bit of debris. We are halfway through our burn. .400 meters per second to go. $250, 200. This may fall a little bit short, so we'll double check. There we go, we're in orbit. Right, it did fall a little bit short, but 80 kilometers, that's fine. Excellent. So let's remove that node. There's a bit of debris that will be falling back down into the ocean. So let's just use remote tech to see what our short range antenna are doing. That's what this little symbol does here. One click on that button shows you your omnidirectional short range antenna. At the moment we have a direct connection back to the Kerbal Space Center. Click again, we can see where our dishes are connecting, and of course one further click shows both. That's a bit of a mess. So we'll switch them all off. There we go. We know they're working, so which is good, which is excellent. So let's get on our way to the Mun. Where's the Mun? There we go. One Mun. Let's set that as target. Now we'll need to start from over here somewhere. So let's put a node in and extend until we get an encounter. Right, we're a bit late, so let's, or rather a bit early. So let's extend it a bit further. Bring it round. A bit further round, getting there. There we go. Excellent. What have we got? We've got 120. I wonder if we can get that a little bit closer. 79. 57. Now we'll have to adjust when we get up really close, because I don't think this is going to be accurate enough to be perfect for the contracts. But what I thought we'd do is we do the first contract, this one, to test the LV1 on approach, because technically this is an escape directory. So we will do that one first before we get into orbit. Excellent. Right, let's get our flight computer on the job. Let's just check how we are rotating. It's going to take 850 meters per second, give or take. 46-second burn in 17 minutes. So let's get the node locked in, the execution locked in, and then we can use time warp just to bring us round to the maneuver node. There we are. That's us, the Mun Mark 1. So times 50 is as fast as we can go. We've drifted a little bit from the maneuver node, but we should be able to recover that small difference when we arrive at the maneuver node. For very heavy vehicles, that might not be the case, so bear that in mind if you're expecting the flight computer to sort this out for you. So there we go, we were a little bit off. So let's just pop out of map mode. There we go, oops. There we are. The Mun should be appearing just over the horizon in just a few moments. Can't see it yet. There we go. Just pick it out just over the horizon here. Okay, well, let's delete that node. Let's go back into map view. And even though we were slightly off, we've still got a pretty reasonable periapsis. And any periapsis would do, as long as we're in the sphere of influence with an escape directory, we can complete this first contract. So rather than hanging around here at Kerbin, let us warp to our change of sphere of influence. There we are. Give it a second tap to go up to maximum time warp as we get out of our distance from Kerbin. And let us focus on the Mun, since that's where we're going. Here we are arriving. And we will soon pop over that boundary into the Mun's sphere of influence. There we go. Excellent. So where do we find ourselves? 78. 78. Perfect. That'll do very nicely. So as you can see, we are on an escape directory. I can't say trajectory. We are on an escape trajectory from the Mun. So it's about time we did our first contract. So let's get out of map view. There we are on approach. Now engines in general have a run test button. So even if it says use staging, just double check you have a run test button. Makes things a lot easier. So there we are, run test. But run test also activates the engine. So let's just shut that engine down. We don't need it anymore. And we have one contract successfully completed. So next, let's get ourselves into an orbit around the Mun. Now for these two contracts, we need to be at about 15, 14, 15 will do just nicely. So let's slow ourselves down and bring our periapsis down to about 15. 47. 12, a bit too far. 20. 19. 14. There we go. That'll do just nicely. It's over 11 and over 12, 9. So it's over 13 basically. So anything over 13 and under 16 would have been fine. So let's get ourselves our flight computer, lock in the node, and execute it in 1 hour and 23 minutes. So let's just allow our craft to rotate. There we go. Plenty of sunlight to keep those batteries charging. And let's accelerate time as we approach the Mun. Here we go. Let the flight computer handle running the node. There we go. We are now in orbit. See the camera flip there. And there we are. Now we're not at the right altitude yet because we came in at 78. So we'll have to wait until we go round back to the periapsis, which is over here. Now while we're here, we can still have a quick look at our remote tech communication lines. So our Kerbin pointing antenna is getting a signal from all of these front-facing? all of these Mun-facing antenna, all of which are pointing at the active vessel, and ours is of course the active vessel. Now we will suffer a bit of an outage as we go behind the Mun, so that will mean that we might not be able to execute our contract here because we won't have any contact back to Kerbin until perhaps we get around to here. So let's accelerate, let's warp to periapsis. There we go, we lose our control. But as we pop around this side. There we go. We re-establish control. Re-establish connection. So we can now complete our other 2 tests. So let's go into our craft. Now again, we have these engines. So let's do a run test. And that's the Rocamax tested. So let's just remember to shut it down. So it should now be shut down. Yeah, it's definitely shut down. And finally, we have to activate staging for this test, because there is no run test. So let's activate the staging and create another bit of debris. Let's see if we can't hit Kerbin from here. I doubt it. There we go. Off it goes. We'll activate the self-destruct on that part at another time. So there's our 3 contracts complete. So let's just have a quick look at our messages. We have 30,000 funds, 52 science, and 193 reputation. We did subtract some science through our strategy to add a little bit to our reputation. We have another 32,000 funds, 52 science, and 151 reputation for that contract. And the final contract, only 6,000 funds, but 52 science and 93 reputation. So that was rather successful. But let's not waste our satellite. What I think we will do is we will make this our first Mun orbiting satellite. We'll put it out at about let's say 200. There we go. Let's put it out at about 200 kilometers. 206, 196, but too far. 198, 199. There we go. 202. That'll do. And we'll use this as our first Mun orbiting satellite. Just start our communications network around the Mun. So let's get that ready. Let's execute it. And then we can accelerate towards that node. There we are, times 50, the best we can do at this altitude. There we go. Got to go over 25 kilometers to get any higher. You can see our communication network back to Kerbin. Here we are, coming round. Now, I think we may have just run out of battery power there, but because we were on the dark side of the Mun, so a brief outage due to lack of power. So we're going to have to bear that in mind when we build a few more of these. So let's add a final maneuver node here. Go 203, 204. So let's point towards the node and execute this node. It's going to be a 1 second burn, so we still have some additional delta V left over. There we go. Just see our little bit of debris there. We will detonate that a little bit later. So again, we've lost communication from Kerbin, but the computer's still programmed, so we can't send any manual instructions, but we can rely on the flight computer to complete what it has been programmed to do. And that is execute this final maneuver. Here we are. Fantastic. So let's just have a look at our first satellite around the Mun. We will transmit a photo back to KSC just so that they know we are here. We want them to think the mission hadn't been a complete success, which obviously it is. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.